the priest shall go out and look, and if the disease has spread in the house, it is a persistent leprous disease in the house. It is unclean, and you shall break down the house, its stones and timber, and all the plaster of the house, and he shall carry them out of the house. So far, what we've talked about is we've talked about realizing that something's going on. So you have to inspect the irritation. You've got to investigate the irritation. You have to evaluate the environment. This is all about discovery moments and dealing with stuff that's not that big. But then there's some people in your life that you have to figure out what the issues are that are causing the friction, and you have to contain the contamination. And you have to say, this is the thing we're not going to do. I'm not doing this with you here. We're not doing this in my house. I'm not going to have this conversation with you. If we can abide by these boundaries, peace can be maintained, and we can still do. It's great. I'm glad to have 49 of my cousins come over and have Thanksgiving in my house. Great, fantastic. But we've got to, this is what we do here. This is how we're going to operate. That's when you contain the contagion. By the way, you don't have to do this, and you don't have to put out a press release on your boundaries. You don't have to make an issue where there is no issue, but all of y'all know Cousin Rodney keep rolling up in there and causing a problem. So just get on the phone with Cousin Rodney and tell him we got to knock it off. If y'all got a Cousin Rodney, I don't know. I'm new. So don't be mad at me that the prophetic word came forth. Amen. So you just got to contain the issue. And if you can do that, then peace. But there is a type of leprosy that gets in the house that the Bible calls a persistent leprous disease. This is something that it ain't going away. It ain't going away. And when this happens, you have to terminate the terminal. You have to terminate the terminal. This is a hard thing to talk about from the pulpit. This is a hard thing to preach. But I've been reading in Jeremiah, which in the future I might recommend that pastors who just came into churches not read for a year. Because there's some stuff in Jeremiah that just... Jeremiah, on multiple occasions, he rebukes the prophets of Israel and says, you have healed my people lightly. And I can tell you this, I can preach this message and talk about the people in your family that are berserk. And I can tell you, just go pray, breakthrough is coming. And let me encourage you in this message, go pray, breakthrough is coming. The other side of that is you can only sacrifice your peace so long. The gospel, your family, your job, your church are all best served by you being a person who operates with peace. And when you know that you're sacrificing peace, at some point you need some information that's actually going to help you. And there does come a point where you have to terminate the terminal. Some relationships need boundaries, and others need to be terminated entirely. Several years ago, I had to do this with some family that I should have done it with sooner. I knew the relationship dynamics were unhealthy, to say the least. And you may say, well, how do you know it was unhealthy? Well, it shouldn't take 24 hours to recover from a 30-minute phone call. That math doesn't work. And I had known for years that the relationship being intact was compromising the peace that I operated in on a daily basis, because I was living in a place where I was having to schedule those phone calls in moments where I thought I was making the least impact, which, by the way, means that any time that I was about to enter into a rest mode, which is necessary for me, I was causing myself problems and upsetting my peace with my family that I needed to do something about. But it wasn't only affecting me, it was affecting my wife. It was affecting my kids, because when I got off the phone with these people, I'm a totally different person. And I mean, I'm losing my mind to some degree, and they'd all go, you've been on the phone with Hueytown. And In fact, come to find out, Jocelyn didn't even know Hueytown was a real city because she went to a marching band competition a year ago, and I get a text in the middle of the competition in all caps that says, "Hueytown is a real place." She thought this was some crazy word I had made up to describe my family. I'm on the phone to Hueytown again. Said, "This is a real place." But they would know I'd been on the phone with Hueytown, and it came to the moment that it came to a head for me. A couple of years ago, 4 years ago I think now, I got COVID real bad. I went into the hospital. They thought I was going to die. When I got to the hospital, they started preparing Ashley immediately. For about 3 days, it did not look like I was going to make it at all. And 3 days in, I started to recover. They kept me there for 6 more days for one of the most expensive getaways I've ever been on. And but they thought I was gonna die, and I do not know how, but my family found out, Hueytown found out I was in the hospital. I don't know how they found out. These people don't have Facebook. They don't text message. I don't know how they figured it. They must have sent a bulletin out in the local newspaper that I have no idea. But I will tell you, in my experience, if you get around some crazy dysfunctional addicts, these are some of the most resourceful people on the planet. I don't know how, but they will find a way to do whatever it is they won't find a way to do. And so they found out I was in the hospital, and the nurse walks in and she says, "Hey, your mother is on the phone." At the time, I'm hooked up in what looks like a space helmet to breathe. They don't have me on one of these things. They got me on a full helmet pumping oxygen into me. And as soon as that nurse said it, I instinctively knew if I get on the phone, I'm going to have a heart attack. They'd been measuring my heart rate. They put me on beta blockers for quite a few months. That my heart rate had just gone crazy with the COVID, and I knew if I get on the phone with this woman, I'm going to have a heart attack. And I said, "No, tell her I will call her when I'm out of the hospital and I'm feeling better." The amount of drama that ensued from that, by the way, is being highly synthesized this morning in this message. I get home several days later, about a week later after she called the hospital. I get home, and we kind of have a rule. If we get mail from one of our families, it goes to us. If Ashley's granddaddy is going to send me something, I'm going to give Papa's card to her first. If my family sends something to her, it's coming to me first. It goes through the filter first. That's just something we do. And she said, "Hey, your grandmother sent me a card," and she hands it to me, and I open it up. And my grandmother has sent my wife a sympathy card with an ugly note inside of it. And I said, "That's it. I'm done." That's the moment I said, I cannot let this go on. Because here's the reality: you don't owe every part of yourself to everybody. And I want you to know that what I'm saying right now, this isn't for everybody. But this is a very hard thing to do, especially in the South, because we live in this dynamic of blood is thicker than water. To some degree, some of your families today expect you to be more loyal to them than your spouse. And let me just encourage you, man of God. The Bible says to leave and to cleave, and your wife is more important than your mama. And that's Bible. Take it up with Jesus. I don't have time for it. I owed it to myself. I owed it to my wife. I owed it to my kids to terminate that relationship as hard as it was. Because it was never, hear me, it was never going to get better. It was never going to improve. In fact, immediately I did what I would encourage you to do if you feel like you need to do this. I called my counselor. I'd been seeing a counselor regularly, good emotional health. It's a positive thing. And I had been seeing her for quite a while, but I stopped during COVID. And so this all happened. I call her on the phone. I start talking through the process with her, and I would encourage to do that. But I also talked to another one of my friends who knows my family, and he just asked me, he said, how are you going to feel if you do this and tomorrow Meemaw dies? I said, I'm probably not going to be in a good place for a little bit. I said, but there's another side of that coin. He said, what's that? I said, she could live to be 135 years old. And if I don't deal with this, I'm going to be dealing with it forever. Just like my shoulder pain. It's been uncomfortable, and now it's become something that is unbearable. I cannot do it anymore. I cannot give any more of myself to this dysfunctional situation. Because there's just some people that change is not on the horizon. I believe God can turn it around. But my peace is my responsibility today. And there's a recipe of issues that you'd have to work through to figure out if this is something you got to do in your family. And again, I recommend talking to a counselor if you think you're going to do it. But I will encourage you, for the handful of people that I am talking to this morning. By the way, I'm not talking to everybody no more, so if you finish before I do, just wait for me at the end of this message. But for the handful of you that I'm talking to right now, I would give you this testimony. Everybody I know who's ever done this would give you this testimony. Everybody says, I should have done it sooner. Because immediately the peace in my life increased. The peace in my life went up. So the 4 steps this morning: you inspect the irritation, you evaluate the environment, you contain the contagion, and you terminate the terminal.